When someone hurts you or is foolish or sins against you, the consequences of their behaviors often affect you more than the other person. And so then anger or bitterness or resentment are often the result. Even when someone hasn't been intentional about inflicting harm, these negative emotions often creep up into our spirit and they're hard to get rid of. And so I want to give you a few things you can do if you find yourself stuck in resentment. First, ask yourself, what purpose does this negative emotion serve? Is it a payback? Is it an attitude of, I get to be right? Is it an indicator that you're angry and need to have a conversation with someone who sinned against you, or that you haven't been able to forgive them? Second, recognize that you are not a helpless victim of your own emotional life. The Bible tells you to get rid of bitterness and rage and anger and brawling and slander, along with every form of malice, and to be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other just as Christ forgave you. We're also called to be imitators of God and live a life of love. And Ecclesiastes 11 says something very interesting. It says, remove vexation from your heart. In other words, you have an important part to play if you want to let go of your negative feelings. You have to take responsibility to do something with them. Third, in order to let go of those emotions, you have to want to. And so if you're struggling with the willingness, ask yourself these questions. What will it cost me to hold on to all this bitterness and resentment? What will it cost my marriage or my relationship to hang on to them? Well, how do you specifically let go? So I'm going to give you 2 steps that you can take to begin to let go of resentment and other negative emotions once you've decided you no longer want to have them. First, externalize them. We often over-identify with our emotions as if they are us. And so a way to break this habit is to recognize the language of how you talk about your feelings. For example, instead of saying, I'm resentful, say it this way: I'm aware that I'm resentful. I'm aware that I'm feeling resentful. You see, it's important that you realize that you are not your feelings. And so when you give yourself a bit of space by saying it in this new way, you can now do something about your feelings, resentment. In other words, you have your resentment instead of your resentment controlling you. Second, once you're aware that you're feeling these emotions, you can choose to practice the opposite virtue. When the Apostle Paul tells us to get rid of these negative feelings, he doesn't stop there. He also tells us to do the opposite: be kind, compassionate, forgiving. When you don't want to feel those negative feelings anymore, actually doing something opposite to them with a genuine heart will help you get rid of them. We get rid of a bad feeling by replacing it with another feeling, because it's impossible to feel 2 opposite feelings, such as anger and compassion or laziness and diligence, at the same time. This practice helps you not allow your temporary emotional state to dictate how you're going to treat someone. Instead, you choose to treat another person out of the person you are or want to become, rather than how you feel in any particular moment. This practice will help you release the negative emotions you no longer want to feel and replace them with joy or peace. If you need more help in learning specific ways on how to get rid of negative emotions, you'll find a lot of help in my book, Lord, I Just Want to Be Happy. Take care and God bless.